Hey everybody, it's me, Jason Torchinsky. I'm driving a Wartburg 311 in a cemetery in Los Angeles, and I wouldn't have it any other way. This is a dead brand. Wartburg is about as dead as a car brand is likely to be. I don't even know if anybody owns the Wartburg name anymore, but as far as likely to come back to life, that's probably not going to happen for Wartburg. So a cemetery seemed kind of a strangely appropriate place for that. Considering what I was expecting, I'm surprised at kind of how charming this car is. You know, it's got references and influences from a lot of other Western cars. You can see a little, Mercedes-Benz 190 in here. Even there's some American-looking design and the kind of pontoon fenders and the use of chrome. So there's something about it that doesn't feel quite so punitive that you usually, when you usually think of like an East German car, like a Trabant. This is the way I want to be running from the secret police. And a lovely robin's egg blue Wartburg with the wind through my hair, knowing these are probably the last free moments of my life. Just looking at it, it's pretty and it's charming, right, but you may pass it by. It may just be like, oh, so what's special about a Wartburg?
It's the two-stroke motor, it is a 3-cylinder, and that's something you don't see every day.
Okay, so the first thing you notice is like everything's backwards.
Right.
Everything looks like it's in the wrong place, and the block looks like
a sewing machine.
A sewing machine. Yeah, you can lift that thing up.
Right.
And this engine is known because it only has
seven moving parts.
7 moving parts.
Yes.
So the thinking was just less to break and make it as easy as possible.
Right.
And now the power, it's making 37 horsepower from this little 900cc 2-stroke engine. I'm not going to call it quick, but it doesn't feel lethargic. And the actual speed I'm doing, what am I doing? I'm doing like 40. So that's not bad if I'm trusting the speedometer, which I don't know if I am. The power delivery is actually pretty good. Maybe that's because there's 2 power strokes, for the revolution of the crank, but it still doesn't feel quite like you're used to with a 4-stroke engine. There's just something, you can tell there's something not right. And it sort of sounds like when you let off the throttle, it's like this, it sounds like something's like fallen out of the cylinder head and kind of bopping around in the bottom of the pan there. If you're listening carefully, which of course you are, listen to that. Listen to that strange sound. So the exhaust note is rattly and loud, and these strange pulses that don't seem to quite come at the times you think they are. And there's a nice kind of strange little growl to it. So it's a 3-on-the-tree shifter, but the pattern's a little bit reversed. So first is like forward and up, and then down is second, and then back to you and up is third. And then it's actually got 4 gears, which for a 1959 car, that's actually pretty good. I mean, there were a few other cars that had a 4th overdrive, like Beetle, 2CV, all those guys, but it wasn't that common. They're derived from the old DKW engine. So basically, just for a little bit of history here, Wartburg basically came around because originally over at Eisenach, there was a BMW factory there. And the BMW factory was on the wrong side of the wall after World War II, and it was in the Soviet sector. And so they changed the name from BMW to EMW. They made the roundel logo instead of blue, they made it red, and then they kept cranking out old BMW 328s and stuff like that. And then later on, they took a DKW design, called it the IFA F9, which was the predecessor of this car. So mechanically, this thing's basically an old 2-stroke, 3-cylinder DKW that they just made a few refinements on and then put a whole new body on, and then that became the Wartburg. So because it's a 2-stroke, that means the oil gets mixed with the gas. So all your lubrication only comes when you've got a little throttle pumping gas into them, and these came with what's called a freewheel on the transmission, meaning if you let off the gas, it's not going to just stay in gear. It's going to let the wheels run free. So on most cars where you let off the gas, the wheels are kind of driving the engine. On a 2-stroke engine, after a while, that would kill it because it means you've got no lubrication going in if you're not giving it any throttle. So the freewheel both gives you a little extra fuel economy, which these things kind of sorely needed, and it keeps the engine from, destroying itself, which is a big plus. These are not clean engines by any stretch. And for their size, they're surprisingly thirsty too. They don't get very good gas mileage at all. What you're doing is you're basically trading efficiency and clean air for small and cheap and minimal maintenance, which honestly in East Germany in the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s was not a bad deal. That was a trade-off they were happy to make. I do not have any idea what the fuck was wrong with people before like 1980 that these mirrors were somehow considered accurate. Like this, there's a rear view mirror here on the dash, and when I look into it, all I see is that gigantic convertible top. That's it. And then there's a wing mirror over here that gives me a beautiful view of robin's egg blue fender and some road. So I could use it if I'm trying to avoid hitting, say, a squirrel and pretty much nothing else. And because it's on the wing, I can't even adjust it. Did people just not care? Did nobody give a shit about what was around them until 1982, and then they thought, maybe we'll check. The brakes aren't bad, they're drums all around. I mean, they're terrible in the way that every car of this era has terrible brakes. These seats are actually kind of great. Like you would expect, like this kind of seat, you take out of this context, you could throw it in a coffee shop or in some guy's library where he's smoking, what I always imagine to be a sausage, but I know it's probably a cigar, and it would be totally in place. So it's actually quite comfortable, and everything else in here has a strange, almost furniture-like feel to it. I haven't really encountered that in a car before. The shifter it's small and almost delicate. Like the little lever is very thin. The knob is this like white, almost looks like a porcelain doohickey. The steering wheel itself is this ivory-looking material that yields just ever so slightly under your fingers. It looks like the steps leading up to like the Capitol building or some strange neoclassical architecture, and yet it yields and it feels sort of like teeth or elephant ivory in color. I don't know, every material is a little bit stranger than what you're used to. They have sort of that classic mid-century car look, but you still can't quite put your finger on what it is. It's got a good size. It's actually a really great little car. All right, Victor, this has been a real pleasure. Driving this thing was a huge treat. I had a blast in it. And, we just want to say thanks on behalf of all the Wartburgs that are left out there for actually being the one man left who's keeping the Wartburg flame alive. So we really appreciate it. Keep up the fantastic work. And remember, if any of you have a Wartburg out there and you haven't contacted Victor Perchansky, you are making a grave error.
I'm in California.
Yeah, get a hold of him.
WartburgUSA.com.
Outside of these cars.
No, it's interesting. I don't know his story. Hi, I'm Jason Torchinsky.
Sounds like a popcorn machine.
Oh yeah, it does sound like a popcorn machine, says the disembodied voice behind me. So Mike, are you getting asphyxiated at all? Yeah, because I'm smelling a little when we stop, and I feel like if we were in like one of the hardtop ones, we might be dead by now.